We all know that the US is a horrible place for trans people right now. It feels like after decades of steady progression and moving forward, we turned around and jumped off a cliff. It's so bad in some states that Americans are moving to Canada because our legislators know how to treat people kindly. Or do they? Yeah, they do. Unless you're in Alberta, because then you're cooked. On the assumption that moderate risk is the default, which takes into account the generalized social climate and anti-trans hate in Canada, we're doing pretty good as a whole. I mean, there's no red on this graph because I printed it in black and white. No, but for real, this gray would be red. This would be red. This would be like half red. Oh my God, Quebec. But then we got Alberta, which is dark red, and Saskatchewan, which is slowly catching up. But Alberta's maple MAGA red is really starting to scare me. Under Alberta's Fairness and Safety in Sports Act, which came into effect on September 1st, 2025, any transgender woman or girl can no longer compete in amateur sports. And I would like to emphasize the word amateur. This is not professional sports. In fact, in this situation, amateur would refer to any person 12 or older who wishes to or does participate in a sport for fun, enjoyment, or hobby, and is not competing for professional or monetary gain. This is a very similar narrative to what has been happening in the majority of the US states, such as Florida and Oklahoma, who have passed laws banning transgender girls from participating in the sport that aligns with their gender identity. It's kind of insane. I would like to congratulate Alberta for being 5th in the country in test scores while being so conservative. That is a rare thing to see. Statistically, they should be last. Under the new act, for the person to play on a female sports team, they must fill out this form in accordance with their sex assigned at birth, which must be female. The form must be filled out for every single player on a women's or girls' sports team. The form must state that the person, most likely a child, was assigned female at birth. Athletes 12 and older wishing to participate in a female-only league, team, class, excluding physical education, or division of relevant sport must submit the signed confirmation form prior to participation, including tryouts and practices. The purpose of this confirmation is to confirm your child's eligibility for participation in a female-only league, team, class, or division of a relevant sport under the provincial legislation. This requirement applies to athletes aged 12 and older wishing to participate in a female-only team or league, class, division, or a relevant sport. You understand that failure to provide this written confirmation will render the female athlete ineligible to participate, and the information provided in this confirmation form is true. Interesting. And I quote from the Albertan government, "Sport is for everyone, and that is why Alberta is making sport fun, fair, safe, and accessible for all Albertans." Let's not lie to ourselves here. This law is discrimination against transgender individuals who reside in Alberta. And even so, it may, and I'll get to that later, keep a fraction of trans people out of sports. Firstly, safety. If a written challenge or complaint is made against any student or individual competing on a female team, that student may be investigated further and will have to provide birth documentation proving that they are assigned female at birth. Anyone can submit a complaint against any person on a female team claiming that they have suspicion that they are not female at birth, and that player on the team, who will be most likely a student-aged individual, will have to provide documentation that they were assigned female at birth. Imagine how it might feel to be a cisgendered person and to be accused of being transgender, most likely based on physical characteristics, and then have to prove otherwise? What are we doing? I can assure you that when minors are questioned about their sex because a grown adult is suspicious of them, based on, again, unalterable physical characteristics, it will not be a net positive for participation or accessibility. I would argue that being forced to prove your sex to participate on a sports team is going to be a negative for participation, and at the minimum, an increase in fear and body negativity because you were called out by an adult because they think you're transgender. What makes me most curious, though, is what the government of Alberta thinks they're doing here, because I'm pretty sure they're doing nothing. See, in Canada and most places, people can change the legal name and the gender on their birth certificate and all their other legal documents. If a trans person has updated their legal documentation, there's no way that someone could tell they were assigned male at birth from that documentation. Maybe the Alberta government has this master plan to find out what their gender assigned at birth is. But if that is not the case, and I hope it's not, there is no foolproof way to enforce this law. And this law was unnecessary because transgender women who have gone through hormone suppression or not gone through puberty at all show no clear advantage to a cisgender woman. That's why you don't see trans women winning all the championships. To do the absolute least for their gender diverse youth, Alberta has promised to make gender neutral and co-op sports teams for those who can no longer legally participate in sports. But this will never work because there are not enough gender diverse people to make this happen. Coming from someone who tried so hard to make gender neutral sports a thing back in middle school, even when you look at 20 schools, 30 schools, all competing in one championship, there will only be 20 or 30 gender diverse people. That is not enough to run a real tournament. And realistically, it will be less than that because most trans people are done putting up with this garbage because no one else is playing on the gender neutral sports team. Let's get that clear. No one else is going to do it. It's only going to be trans people. It's just embarrassing and has the benefit of outing them to all of their peers. There will never be enough gender diverse kids to make a gender neutral team happen. And what'll happen then? Well, it just won't happen. They'll say, we have a gender neutral team for all our transgender students who legally can't participate in any other sports team. And they'll run it and they'll do a roll call and they'll get 2 people maximum who say, yeah, we're going to participate in this. And then what's going to happen? It's not going to happen. They're not going to do it because we don't have enough attendance. And then trans girls will have nowhere to play sports. Except the law doesn't actually work because you can just change your legal documents. So that's cool. Y'all, I'm for real so done with this. If you want me to make more content on Alberta and Canada and their anti-trans laws, I will totally do that. Just put it in the comments. And thank you to all my channel members who make this content possible. Y'all are the best.